Hello, can we get started? Thank you for those sessions prior to this. That was amazing presentations. I want to stress again that so in years past, we had the space education workforce in STEM as a separate working group. So at the main conference, we would meet concurrently with the other working groups. And I had so many people saying, I really want to go contribute to that, but I'm also, in the space domain awareness working session. And anyway, so what we decided this past year is we're going to do these co-innovation sessions. And so the way it works, if you we have a survey that we would love for you all to input, but here's the key questions we're going to try to get to. So we're sort of like a mini working group. The working groups we try to get the output is, what's the current state of things? What are the key challenges? And then what are the recommendations? So from this, you can input to this survey. You could do it now, you could do it later. We're going to take those inputs and it'll go into part of the report. But then also today, we're going to give some presentations that'll set the stage for this. And then we will have a time for Q&A and discussion. And so we hope you all participate. So with that, I want to, I introduced myself earlier. I'm the CEO of NewSpace Nexus, a nonprofit trying to grow the space industry for our nation from New Mexico. And I am honored that NewSpace Nexus has been hosting these important workshops and conferences for the past few years. I want to turn it over. We have Priyanka, Pant, Kristi Morgansen, and Mike Doyle, but I'll let them introduce themselves if you don't mind. I don't know.
Hi, everyone. I am Priyanka Pant. I'm the Dean of Instruction for School of Transportation, Engineering, and Manufacturing at Lake Washington Institute of Technology. It's a technical college in Kirkland. It's small, but if you go in, it's really big.
Hello, I'm Kristi Morgansen. I am a professor and the chair of the William E. Boeing Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics at the University of Washington. I've been in that role for about 6 years now. And then I'm also the director of the Washington NASA Space Grant Consortium.
And I'm Mike Doyle, president of Space Northwest, but sitting up here in my role as a member of the board of directors of the Joint Center for Aerospace Technology Innovation. That's abbreviated and pronounced as JCATI, which is a Washington state-funded program run out of the University of Washington that pairs research and industry to accelerate innovation in aerospace.
Thank you. Thank you all. I had to remember it it sounds like Tecate. We need some lime, right? Anyways, okay, well, so with that, I want to just first set the stage with, what came about from the SSIB 2023 working group. Basically, to summarize some of the key, and these are still going to be probably today the key issues and challenges. So the key issues and challenges that we wrote about are mentoring, that a lot of the STEM outreach tends to be grassroots, regional efforts in pockets of good, as I say. And so we talked about how we really need to have more of this whole of government, or you're going to hear a little bit about what we were talking about with Pathways to the Stars, where it needs to be interconnected more. And so that was one of the challenges also, that our education, our U.S. education, I think it's pretty well known, we are behind our global peers, and especially in the STEM area, and then lack of meaningful funding. And so those were some of the key issues and challenges. And so we show here how The US is falling behind in that high tech and STEM education. And so we're going to look to you guys on some recommendations. Also, just a lot of STEM educator shortages. Here's nearly 1/3 still facing STEM shortages of the different states within the United States. And then the minority representation in STEM is behind, and so we need to look at that. So some of the key actions and recommendations from last year on the short term, we talked about implementing Pathways to the Stars. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And then also establish key strategic messaging. A lot of discussion last year was on how we need to change how we're selling space. I think a lot of people are really enamored with, say, NASA, and we said that, the big NASA meatball is really exciting. People buy T-shirts in Target with the NASA logos and so on. But how do we get to the masses on space? And really a lot of things that, Stan and Mike talked about, where it's, spaces for humanity. We need to be able to more clearly market, the thrill of space and how it is so universally linked to everything we do with banking, with our, a lot of times when I've done some outreaches, I'll pull out my iPhone and show them the map and ask them, where do you think the blue dot comes from? And just really trying to sell that messaging. Midterm, again, we need this North Star vision and then access to more funding. So those are the things that came up. One thing that was great in 2023, the White House did put together an interagency STEM education report, and it kind of puts the goals together, which are a lot of things that we were trying to work out with strategic partnerships, inclusion, convergence on education, and looking at multiple ways of educating. At the main conference, there's a number of initiatives out there, and we're really trying to map that out. But the World Innovation Network, they've come up with this strategic Earthshot initiative, where they're trying to excite entrepreneurship and have a number of education programs. And so we talked about that at the main conference. It'll go into the report. This is for NewSpace Nexus. We've launched what we're calling the Pathways to the Stars. And what it is, and we're starting this in New Mexico, but the plan is that as it works, we'll keep expanding through our partners here in the Northwest and other partners like Florida and so on. But the idea is to really kind of map all those good pockets of programs and try to figure out how to interconnect them, and how the many students that might be in the 3rd through 5th grade, how do you make sure they get to the high school and some of the tech certificates and internships, and finally to early career placement. And so the idea is how do we figure out, first map what's out there, how to kind of put the interconnection in place, but then the other part is to bring in industry and really bring in industry to help even fund, or maybe accelerate some of those good programs that are doing great, and bring the mentoring. We really need industry to come alongside us to help inspire and keep these students in that interconnected program. I did want to say, yesterday it was announced Rocket Lab is partnering with NewSpace Nexus to start funding some of this Pathways to the Stars. So I think we'll be able to make a little more progress on that whole mapping. We'd love anyone who wants to partner with us, even if you're, wherever you're from, reach out to me and we'll bring you in on that. And like I said, we're starting kind of the mapping in the New Mexico area, but the goal is to have this be a national level effort. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristi Morgansen, who has, so our panel will kind of give a little bit of what they're doing. I just gave you ours with the pathways. And then we'll go to the questions and discussion, and we hope you all join in. Okay,
Can you
we'll,
just turn-
we'll share.
Can you turn that screen so I can see what I'm speaking to? Thank you. Okay, so can you hear me? No, that one's not on. Where's the? I only have a PhD. Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so what I wanted to show here first, just some of the actual data and projections about where we are with workforce. And so this one, I pulled this actually last night. Data always lag a couple of years from the current date because the national databases that everybody pulls out of, it takes them 2 years to clean the data when it comes in. So this is from a year ago, and so it should update here probably in another year. The key thing I want to show on this, though, is this isn't just for semiconductors, although that's where I pulled it from. It's all technical industry. And if you look at this, you should be concerned because the gap is growing. And so, there's more jobs being filled, but there's also just a larger set of unfilled jobs. And it's all of, the computer science, the engineering, and the technical, the skilled workforce. So I think that's a really important thing to know, because if we have any hope of closing that gap, we have to think very much about how do we change how we're educating and drawing people in. Okay, next slide. So a little bit of that here. Sorry, this has a few bits of data all over the place. These data are a little bit more out of date, but again, like the data lag a couple years. So this is all of the engineering degrees awarded in 2020. And so the purple is all engineering. The left bars are for bachelor's, and then master's and PhD. And then the silver is aerospace specifically. So if you're looking for aerospace engineers, which is only part of what space industry needs, it's not a big number that is produced nationally. Now we're all growing, all of the departments are growing, but it's still not a huge number. But again, so notice here, like these are just some of those job numbers from a couple years ago about where the gaps are. And then the thing down in the bottom right, I think, is the more important piece to know about where are those potential employees coming from. And so there, in that year, there were which year was this? 3.3 million high school graduates from 2020. Sorry, I've got a distance thing going here. I can either see close or far away. No, it's good. I know it's on my slide. So the thing to know there is looking at the number of people that are going into STEM from high school. That's like including people going into medicine. So, if we're going to actually close that job gap, we are not going to be getting more high school graduates. That number is actually going to go down year over year for at least a while here. So if we want more people in STEM, we need to be thinking very much about how do we connect them to those interest areas, to the education. We do need to catch them in middle school. That's where there's a huge divergence of interest. So I say this as a parent of 2 middle schoolers. With the underserved demographics, that's going to require actually educating differently. So it's not necessarily that they don't want to come in, but they may not have the educational resources, they don't have the role models, and they don't have mentors. So next slide is my last. I only had 3 slides. So this is one thing to know. This is data from the University of Washington College of Engineering. We track a lot of things about our students, but in particular, jobs at graduation relative to internships. And so if you look at a bunch of the job openings, I know Stan is always my source of data on this. The companies that have all the openings, a lot of them, I'd say the vast majority, Stan, am I true about this? The vast majority want 5 to 10 years of experience. Yeah, that's the dream, right? Everybody wants those wonderful multitaskers that have the 5 to 10 years of experience. Okay, well, they don't come out of college with that. That's not on us necessarily. We can only do so much in 4 years. But if they're getting internships, like that job rate is really high at graduation. And so the thing that we need, which we're lacking, is more internships. And I totally know, because I do talk to a lot of the companies, that a lot of the companies that need those employees are just short on people to help at all. So I think that there needs to be some conversation about that, about how we can get those newly graduating students or about to graduate students good experience that is job relevant, helps them be more job ready so that, you know, we can not require them to have the 5-10 years of experience. All right, that's my data. I love data.
Dean Priyanka Pant.
Thank you so much. And I would love to use Kristi's slides where they have the graph regarding the gap in the labor market. Yes, that one. Thank you so much. So I just want to talk about the project that we just completed with Amazon's Project Kuiper. So Project Kuiper is basically, reading through my notes, is low Earth orbit satellite broadband network for underserved population, especially in rural areas. So they are building these satellites. They have a manufacturing unit in Kirkland. So before they started with their manufacturing unit, they approached our campus, which is Lake Washington Institute of Technology, to build some short certificates for technician. As you can see in this graph, there is a job market over there for them. So we had a meeting with Project Kuiper team, and they shared the technical skills they were expecting from our students. Lake Washington Tech is a trade school as well as host around 11 bachelor's programs too. And in our campus, we have something that is electronics technology program, which is a core for aerospace engineering, manufacturing, assembling unit, you name it, and electronics technology is the key for it. But post-COVID, due to low enrollment, I had to place that program in hiatus. But with Project Kuiper support, which was financial as well as educational, they provided us with the list of skills they wanted from their technician, as well as some soft skills. And we collaborated to build 2 short certificates. One is an assembler certificate worth 16 credits, 1 quarter. We are a quarter-based campus. And the other is a manufacturing specialist certificate. Predominantly hands-on technology, and they will be working in a hybrid environment and having a more hands-on lab. We are working with Project Kuiper team to get a lot of tools from them, as well as purchasing the similar equipment they'll actually be using in their manufacturing unit and beyond. So we started from there. We have space and we have room to go beyond these short certificates. These short certificates cater to the technician needs. Students will have not only the technical skills required, but we are incorporating technical reading and writing within our short certificate. The reason being, one of the things shared by the lead from the Project Kuiper team was that they want the students having the ability to understand the steps provided, the technical steps provided, and converting them to the step that they do with their toolboxes. So giving them that opportunity and eventually hoping to create an associate's degree, which will be labeled as satellite technician program. And with that, we hope that we can provide students with a bachelor pipeline too. I'm also a part of Air and Space Strategy 2030 King County program, where we have a similar pathway that we are discussing as shared by Casey over here, where we want to start from middle school. Middle school is where students have are building a sense of what they want to do. So the idea is to start with small elective courses. Middle schools have a pool of electives that they can take. And then high schools have a aviation short course. And that aviation short course is more about how a small engine works, single flight engines, and how to fly a plane. And now we are converting that into aerospace circuitry-based programs. And then eventually an associate's at our campus, bachelor's program maybe at UW, or bachelor's into business or more. So a pipeline is being created. It is slow. In Washington State, the 405 corridor has not only Lake Washington, but Edmonds College has a water center, which is Washington's Aerospace Training and Research Center. They do similar programs, hybrid modality to support the workforce, which are currently working. Similarly, Everett also has an aviation technology program out there. So there are programs, but what I feel is missing is the awareness amongst our prospective students as to what is this about? What is aviation? What is aerospace? What is satellite? What is expected out of us? Is it going to be a bunch of science and math courses? Or is going to be a hands-on thing that I love to do? I want to break stuff and build stuff. So that awareness is not out there. And that awareness need to be created, and we would need support. So to summarize, we are starting new, we're starting summer quarter, and thankfully, we have donations to provide a tuition waiver to the first few cohorts in our campus. And we're looking forward to start these short certificates and hopefully next year, fall 2025, submit a request for a full-blown satellite technician associates. Thank you.
How exciting. And internships keeps coming up over and over, right? Over to you, Mike Doyle, for Jacati. Talk a little bit about Jacati.
Yeah, so a simple way to think about Jacati is as a matchmaker between researchers at public universities in Washington and industry. So industry might have a particular technology, and it has to have some legs. We're not talking about basic research, but coming in with something that's a TRL 3 or 4 with an aim to get it to a 7, either because you don't have the workforce or you don't have the facilities or you don't have the research expertise in-house. You can partner with Jacati to match up with a university and a research team that does. The scope of projects covers both aviation and space, so the full of the aerospace domain. And it's a yearly process where researchers and industry come together to put together proposals that are then evaluated for grants of up to 120,000. I believe, that are meant to be executed over the course of the next year. The proposals get evaluated based on the idea itself, its technical merit, whether it's achievable within that 1-year time frame, as well as, well, what kind of impact would this have? Will this create jobs in the state of Washington? Will it create startups? Could it have impact in other industries? So the proposal process goes through in the spring. There is a symposium that Jacati holds, which kind of brings together speakers as well as the results of the projects that were funded from the previous year. And the idea is to use this mechanism to, help with that valley of death, right? With that TRL 4 to 7, to try to get, more engagement and more innovation in the aerospace ecosystem. And I should also point out that the funds do go towards both graduate students and undergraduate students to, keep them going through the process of learning and innovating, conducting the research, the testing, and the transfer of the technology back to the industry partner.
So those sound really great programs. And to kind of our point too is like, how do we connect these, right? I want to open up to the panel, but then also the audience to, what are some of the key developments that you have seen from the last year impacting space education, workforce, and STEM? And key developments can be plus or minus. So please speak up.
So something that I have seen, because this project that we completed took us 1.5 years, and in that time frame, I have seen huge changes in middle school and high school. School districts are catching up, and they are working towards getting their students interested and intrigued by aerospace, space, or aviation. They are trying. But I'm not sure if you are aware, most of our school districts are under budget. My kid is in North Shore School District. They have a $26 million deficit. And they are removing paraeducators, they're removing music and other short elective programs from their school district. But at the same time, the counties, example, King County, has been working with them in a collaborative manner to keep these technical short elective courses there. So I have myself seen a huge trend and change in North Shore School District's high school program, because my kid is in high school program and he's interested in aerospace and aviation. So I have seen their aviation program change from the small technical mechanic, how to fix a airplane engine, to more electronics, avionics side of it. But the biggest issue they are facing over there is who's going to teach that? Who's going to leave their field to come over there and teach? Collaborating with our community colleges has been effective in finding instructors to teach. Mentoring will be heavily beneficial if we have someone from a CTE background who is the faculty for that course, but we have mentors, guest speakers come in from industry and showcase the student what a life could be for a prospective employee in aerospace field, as well as contribute to the curriculum being discussed, will be very, very beneficial. I have seen an uptick, but at the same time, in spring quarter, I'm seeing a huge issue with the deficit in budget. Similarly, the community college system, we have 34 CTC colleges, all are working towards aviation / aerospace / satellite technician programs. We are building it. Money is an issue, but at the same time, the state board, which governs these 34 CTC campuses, has been providing us with grants and more. But that's a lot of work to work towards. We do a lot of ESD data collections. We prove how we can run these. And so I see a positive. I see a positive graph where the school districts are responding to the need. The community colleges are responding to the need of the market. But at the same time, there are other problems that we are facing.
You have any input or anyone want to come up? Go ahead.
I guess what I would say, I mean, my kids are in middle school here in Seattle Public Schools, and it's a similar situation. They're doing basically all the exact same things in terms of pulling in some of those grants and all. At the university, we are getting a lot of pull from more programs around space kinds of things. So we are building out more curriculum around that area. We just hired several faculty in the space area so that we can offer more courses along those lines. I will say one of our big challenges, because of the way that the funding works in Washington State for the public universities, we don't get to control how many students we take in. So we are capacity constrained, and there are a lot more students that are qualified that we can't take. And that is a challenge for trying to get these job gaps filled. So things to be aware of there.
I think recent developments, definitely the work at Lake Washington Technical Institute is fantastic. I was thrilled to see that partnership between industry and, academia. Like, here is a problem. Let's go solve exactly that. Something that I've been thinking about, and it actually came up in our panel discussion yesterday with the Washington Tech Industry Association on AI and space, was the role of AI in accelerating research and accelerating education, especially necessary in this space. Trying to see the ways in which you can leverage that to reduce some of these capacity constraints, because they're real, right? It's wonderful to get the demand, but it needs to be satisfied. And I don't know that we're always successful in satisfying the need for every student in the way they need to be.
Right. So if there's any inputs or anyone wants to join us, that, you know, the next questions are the key obstacles and challenges. So yes, please. And online also, join us.
Thanks, Matt Arney, my own consulting services cast, but this has been a very interesting problem. And I was recently exposed to the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship. Great program, but my understanding of that is a partnership between like Microsoft, I saw Costco and others in the Washington state government in trying to provide opportunity for education at bachelor's, master's, and also in the trades. I think 34% of that goes to the trades as well. Not only in the scholarship money, but the mentoring, kind of that holistic approach to allow Washingtonians to enjoy the benefits of the education. A lot of first generation college graduates as well. And they have offices throughout. So obviously connecting in this. And I feel like there's a little bit of a middle school parent support group we have going on right now, because I have a middle schooler and an elementary school kid, but they have the privilege of, you know, being in great public schools on this side. They're in the shadows, so maybe we can, you know, these problems of bringing more mentors in to help the educators and such. But in hearing you guys talk, I'm thinking about the Kevin Scott book, Reprogramming the American Dream. Going into the rural areas, how do we connect in those rural areas? It's like, it's a harder problem, but possibly a bigger ROI in investing in those rural areas and elevating people into the jobs of the future there. So I'd be interested to hear more about that kind of rural development of how we connect in the elementary and middle school and elevate them to realize these opportunities to then position our industrial base 15, 20 years from now in a better position.
That's a great point.
Okay, so totally agree with you. So the rural areas are, I would say, one of the bigger challenges. That's where a lot of the underserved demographics are located. They often don't have, you know, like they probably dream of the financial issues we have here in the Seattle area. However, I will say, like, I want to touch on like the AI opportunities. Like, you know, I think there's a lot of concern that's been voiced about AI, but there is also a lot of opportunity for individualized learning with AI systems. Like I have put some interesting questions in and gotten some really nice answers out of it. I mean, you can, you know, and students these days are perfectly comfortable with technology. So I think that there's some things that can be done with that. The biggest challenge I would see is around like physical infrastructure. So, you know, getting them, if they want to do hands-on kinds of things, you know, we've run into this with the Washington Space Grant where we've done a lot of rocketry and CubeSat sorts of things, but you have to have a certain base level access to facilities to do things like that. And so that has been a bigger challenge in our more remote communities. I mean, what we're looking at focusing on with them coming up here in the next few years is more remote sensing kinds of things, because then they can get access to like all kinds of these data that are just available, and start learning how to do like the statistical analyses and things like that with the data, work with some partners from some of the more established locations that have the infrastructure to actually walk through, like, you know, how would you collect the data for something? But I would say like I think that's like one of the bigger challenges is how to get them like hands-on kinds of things.
Right. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I have maybe a concrete suggestion of what might help. And this is coming from, you know, what my own experience was back in the 80s when I was a young person, you know, writing my own proposals to NASA to go work on, you know, space access with hypersonics and single stage to orbit. I wrote my own proposal and I got accepted at NASA Ames, and I got to work on the big supercomputers on a hypersonic vehicle. And it was incredible. The amount I learned and the people that I met were just life-changing, right? But the thing was, I paid for everything. I paid for my flight. I paid for like a couple of months worth of stay. And the way I underwrote it was through a separate internship at a research lab that I was working on. So I just kind of did it myself. Nowadays, like if you look at it now that I'm hiring, interns and whatnot, the problem is that the amount of knowledge that the students are coming out with, I'm even talking about master's students, right? Is very, it's very limited. So if you're a big company, you can underwrite the student and not get much return on that. And you do it for the goodness of the student, which is an important thing, right? But when you're an organization that's, under budgeted, and you have to understand in the United States, what the kids are expecting is insane. What they expect for internships, right? So so now you have to pay a lot of money. You get very little in return, and then you have to mentor them, right? So it makes it almost impossible to do that, because a lot of them are expecting fully paid internships that are, that were basically the cost of a full-on engineer, not that long ago, and an experienced engineer. So the question would be is, the smaller companies, a lot of times you end up wearing lots of hats, and you get to work with sometimes, depending on the startup, you get to work with some people that have fairly deep experience, right? So it's a great environment for the students, right? But what I think would really help would be like a micro grant, right? Not a large amount of money, but a micro grant that would fund the student for about 3 months or so, like an internship. And then you work in collaboration with some of the companies that are trying to do, deep tech. So I'm talking in the context of deep technology. So something like that would cost the universities nothing, because you'd go and get it from the federal agencies. But it would be incredibly valuable for the students. It would be valuable for the organizations, because as the companies grow, they can get more students from that, and they could even invest in the universities. And it would be really valuable for the smaller companies out there.
Can I clarify on that a little bit? So when you're talking micro grant, you're saying that would come out of the government or from industry? Because in a way, like industry does pay for the internships generally, unless there's some programs.
So the problem is that when you're talking about a smaller organization, now, my personal opinion is one of the things that's corrupted and got us into this mess is the venture capital companies. And the reason why is they funded so many silly projects over so long that a lot of the younger people are, they're skewed on what's important. So what ends up happening is, why would they want to go and work on a PhD program, something really hard, when they can work on something relatively easy and make a lot of money? I mean, it's not their fault. So the point would be is, let's say if you're focused on, the harder technical problems, right? And so you need good people. The good news is that a lot of the more passionate people stay fixated on the harder problems. But not everybody could do what I did. I went and volunteered at NASA Lewis, which is Glenn, NASA Ames. I did it all over the industry. That's how I got all my early experience when I was really young. But most people can't do that. So my point is, like a small grant that would fund the student, that would then work with smaller organizations, so everybody wins, is what I'm suggesting. Now, where it would come from, the smaller companies, it's hard for them to get the kind of money to put into something they're not going to get potentially return on investment from. Right?
Okay, thank you. I think I was just going to summarize, and we're going to keep going, but what I've heard on challenges are some of the student capacity, underfunded, industry partnerships. We industry industry to step forward. Getting to the rural underserved, and some of it is physical infrastructure limited. That's where we could look at things like data, like remote sensing. And then what you say on as far as the challenge is that the students coming out are like knowledge limited, but then that's where these internships, like what Kristi was talking about, if we could get some of these significant internship apprenticeships, whether it's from the universities or tech, they come into the job with that experience instead of waiting 3 to 5 years. So that's what I've gathered so far. All of you, please join again, anything on the current state, anything on a challenge, anything on a recommendation. And I think Kristi wanted to speak up. So
Yeah, I
but
can
join
speak
in.
to the thought about micro grants. I mean, we do actually offer some internships that way for companies to join in on, and that's through Washington NASA Space Grant Consortium. So you can, I don't remember the website off, it's like I don't know, look up Washington Space Grant Consortium. And like every state has a space grant consortium. There are different mechanisms for how those funds go. But I will say, like, while it might not seem like a lot of money to you, for the university, it is. And so like applying for a grant, like there aren't really any grants that we can apply for in general that are just to cover internships. So our grants are typically, we are supposed to produce research products, and that's kind of our requirement. So I would just say there's no magic bullet. You know, I'm open to exploring everything. And we do have some opportunities through Space Grant.
Okay, yeah, our state has grants for internships and apprenticeships too. I know you had raised your hand. Do you want to?
Hi. To piggyback off of the gentleman over here, back in the 2001, 2007 days, my company was about 14 people, and we would regularly get 30 or 40 applications for students' internship programs, and we got them from Switzerland, France, Germany, all over the US, really tremendous schools. And as time went by, as we were a pretty rare company, right? The commercial company in the space sector was rare 20 years ago. Now there's a lot more. And so this last year, we got four applicants for the summer. And when they found out it was either low pay or no pay internship, they went on to somebody else, right? So we have no interns this summer, which is I think the first. I've had more than 50 interns in my career, more than 50. I literally don't know how many kids I've mentored over the last 20 years. That gap of the possibility of some sort of, I don't know if you could pull it through Jacati or something like that, but the idea of having some form of minimal stipend would be the difference for a small company like mine. I think it would make a difference for a lot of people. So yeah, there are so many space companies in the ecosystem. And back to his point, it's been, the whole industry has morphed based on newfound venture capital in the industry, that if you're not one of those magic companies, you're not getting that quality interns. So this is the first year I've never had an intern. I don't know. I'm kind of freaked out about it, actually.
Just real quick, and this is more for Kristi. You know, one of the things that we've seen the University of Washington do, like electrical engineering department, et cetera, are capstone projects where companies can come in, you know, for a pretty modest amount, fund a team, and have them work on something that's of interest to the company. So it's not a full-blown internship. It happens during the school year, but I wonder if you could talk about that a little as something shy of an internship, but something that's also not onerous financially for startups or other companies to participate in.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That is actually, that program started back in about 2016, I think it was. And so we're not the only university that does this, but we have industry sponsored capstone projects. So all of our engineering programs are ABET accredited. And so the students do have to do a capstone, which is a team-based project. And what we started doing was soliciting projects from industry. And it is a fairly modest cost. I think right now it's at $18,000, which is for 2 quarters, winter and spring. We do ask that the industry partner provide the project topic. We usually recommend it be something like a back burner kind of thing, like not critical pathway. That's not a good plan. And then provides a mentor for the team. So it's like, you know, a couple hours a week tops. And then the university provides the rest of the instruction and the management of the team and the facilities and things like that. So that is definitely a lower cost option. I think that in general, I don't have the data off the top of my head, but I mean, we typically will run over 100 of those projects annually at this point, and it's all of our departments. Most of the projects are multi-departmental, so there's students getting, integration kinds of experiences. Definitely in Aero, like we really focus on integration of multiple systems. I think, a lot of the time the students are then either hired by that company or by one of the other companies. So I do think that has been a winning thing. It's not as deep of an industry internship experience as you would get with like a dedicated one, but it is like not nothing. So I do think it's been very helpful.
I just want to add that at an associate level, our students are in dire need of internships. So hearing that you didn't have internship students is surprising. But at the same time, I do believe that advisory boards are a great place for industry partnership to develop. In our campus, all ProfTech programs require an advisory board, a committee, where industry partnerships are built. And all the members of the advisory board actually review our curriculum, our lab work, capstone projects, internships. They come to the class and talk about their small company or big one and talk about the benefits. They talk about their story. Our ex-students come from Crane Industries and come and talk about how they started, what was the transition, because these are students that I'm talking about right now, mechanical design technology, mechanical drafters, and how they had the transition from just having an associate technical degree into Crane Industries, where they're actually pulling out these high-end projects. So we do that, and that builds a partnership, and also with the students, a sense of, okay, I can do this, this will happen. And what are the small steps? As well as with the internships, if the student feels that this is the right place for me, many times they are okay with low wage or no pay options. What they're looking for is what are they getting out of it? It's like a buy-in. So in my case, in our small campus, which is a technical college, the advisory board members play a crucial role in talking to us about what updates are coming in the industry, what are the emerging trends, what are the soft skills that they're missing. Like right now, work ethic is huge. We got so many complaints regarding this post-COVID that we are surprised. And plus they look into our curriculum and let us know. They walk our labs, they look at our equipment, and they also welcome our students to their company and see the work that their engineers or their technicians are doing. And that opens the doors and removes that obstacle that you are currently facing, which is what is going to be my paycheck? And you are questioning that because you don't have the skills yet. So that is one recommendation. If you are looking for new employees and internships, positions are vacant, talking to the program directors and coming to their classroom and showcasing what your company has to offer, what projects will the students work on? Are they going to just get coffee? No, they're actually going to do something, might make an impact. Just a thought.
Okay. So we're going to wrap this. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. Please.
Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Keiko Messenger from Exploration Laboratories. I would like to mention two things. That the internship definitely a great way that I'm one of the persons who came from foreign country and to United States, and then that opened the door. And I was 19, and then with the backpack, I just stayed here and worked for NASA for 20 years. And then I never, ever said no to any request for a volunteer work at the high school, elementary school, kindergarten, doesn't matter. My husband and I, anytime have that opportunity, we go there. My kids are sitting there, and then all the other kids are listening to, Juliet's mom speaking about space, something like that. Give them a better impression than school hired somebody come in and then, officially talk about something. I would like always wanted to see like a jury system among the big company that stuck up some volunteers. Whenever, school wants to have that little education of wind tunnels, anything, how the airplane flies, that person who is in the next waiting list, go to that school and then give that good level speech talk to them. That is kind of free, it still costs something, but the company give that time off to those engineers who goes to that school, and then that covers some education, that part. And then the other thing is that, just like the gentleman over there said, many of us are sort of self-made, didn't really have that mentor until the very important part. We open up the encyclopedia and then do all the research by ourselves, and then wanted to know more about it. And then we always had that kind of kick when we were little. And then nowadays, those kids have an internet. If you go to YouTube, there is experiments and then mathematic lectures, page after page that automatically comes in. And then I don't know. I don't know how to say this. We should definitely take that advantage of that system, that good education already there out there. I don't know how to use it, but that's what I wanted to mention, because my kids are just continuously watching that and then ask questions. Sometimes I cannot answer.
Thank you. So if you heard that, industry, we need you, those mentors. And then back to one of the recommendations from last year, that we need to market or get the word out differently in using the internet. We have one more, and then we'll let everyone kind of do one final wrap up.
Okay, I'll try to keep it pretty brief, but one thing I noticed too, there's a lot of veterans who will do 2 to 6 years of service, right? They'll only go through their kind of first service cycle. They come out of there with a bunch of highly technical education, no kind of clear direction into maybe what they want to do with that, but a valuable wealth of skills. So in the sense of like meeting people where they are, right? I know there's like the large kind of cross-industry initiatives like Space Workforce 2030 that are trying to address some of this in the more, like at the intern level, at the university level, but thinking of veterans, thinking of their kind of civilian counterparts. You get a lot of folks out of high school go into the technical trades because they don't know what they want to do. They'll get, again, a bunch of technical skills, not really sure what to use it. Maybe they don't want to be, a welder at the manufacturing base over here, but they don't maybe see that kind of parallel pathway to, oh, I can go work for a space company, use my welding skills or my whatever technical skills I've gained from, my time in the Navy or what have you. So like, I guess like thinking it's not really a question, it's not really a recommendation other than to say, kind of like looking for that advocacy of meeting people where they are when they have some of these skill sets that are applicable, but they don't see that pathway. I mean, the same goes for the, administrative skills that maybe, somebody's gone up that kind of office administration or operations pipeline. They're feeling stuck in an office job, not seeing, not thinking, hey, here's the space industry. This is something that, may be really valuable or really exciting. So again, not really anything other than an observation that I think those are some excellent pools of talent that are maybe kind of difficult to shepherd into the space industry, but I think it's worth it, worth that effort.
You all want to wrap it up? Summarize what you heard?
I'm going to start it off. I'm in agreement with a lot of things shared over here. And the point regarding veterans, we do something called prior learning assessment as well as prior knowledge, and use that to align with our minimum requirements to hire. I'll I'm very proud of this. Our welding department, it has 3 faculty and all of them are veterans. We are really proud of them and the work they do. So adding on, yes, there are a lot of opportunities for us to improve on and remove obstacles, but we do need a deeper collaboration. And many a times, as I mentioned, advisory board, going up to campuses, meeting the program, checking it out, will definitely bring more transparencies and leading to opening of more pathways. I think there is a veterans pathway newly designed. This came from, I think, Navy. I'll see if I can get the name and share it later, but there are pathways being built because that is skilled workforce right there. And they might not have a pathway built for them, but there is one existing. So I am more than happy to work towards, because our campus specifically deals with trades. We have a welding department. We run 3-4 cohorts. Most of them are picked before they complete their associates. So when you say no internship students, I am surprised. We have to actually pull them back from our industry counterparts and say, hold on, they need their associate's degree. And why do they need that? Because when you do the first round of firing, who's out? The person with no credentials. So, okay, good to know. It's the skills. We do a skill test. When we hire our faculty in welding, the first thing we do is skill test. So skills are significant, but at the same time, what we are hearing is soft skills help you retain the job. You get your foot in with your technical skills, but you stay there because of your soft skill. So it's a good merger, but looking forward to remove a lot of obstacles which are present for a student. And I think the first thing we need to do is awareness. This industry exists. And there are a lot of levels. There are middle income jobs, high income jobs, low income jobs. There are opportunities at each and every level. And with that awareness, we're going to see a big number of students enrolling in our programs and in our universities and ready to be hired by industry.
Well, so I think one of the biggest things that is important is just to keep conversations going so that everybody's talking to each other and not kind of, getting stuck in their own little echo chamber. Because otherwise we just don't know, what's the best way to approach things. So that'd be the biggest takeaway, I would say, is make sure that conversations continue like this one.
I also really enjoyed hearing Keiko's story of kids using the internet to go down the rabbit hole. I hear so many times where, STEM education is falling behind because kids go down rabbit holes on TikTok, right? Well, kids can go down rabbit holes on Wikipedia, on YouTube. I've seen my kids go way deep on a lot of really interesting stuff. So it's the tools, just like AI, right? It's how you use the tools. Couldn't agree more on the signal that I'm hearing here about connecting the connectors, right? And I think, this is one of the reasons that I, in my position on Space Northwest, sit on the board of Ducati, is to foster those connections, and Space Northwest stands at the ready to help do that more for the state and the Pacific Northwest.
All right, with that, it's a wrap. And I just want to tell you a little bit about, thank you very much, panelists. Very, very awesome discussion. And thank you all for contributing. So we have lunch, and then after that, we will go to the working groups. The advanced space power and propulsion will be in this room. And we have, I'll be helping co-chair that in person. And then we have Peter Gerritsen, who's an expert in space power and propulsion, joining online, and James Winter, who leads a SPIDER space solar power incremental demonstration and research from Air Force Research Lab, joining online to help with that session. Then just down the hall, we're going to be having the outer net, which is hybrid space architecture. Mike Doyle will be in person. I think you're participating in that somewhat. And then Michael Chang, I think he's right out there, will be leading that. He's on one of the newly formed OuterNet Council leaders, so that'll be great. And then Andrew McKenzie back here will help with the report lead. We do a lot of documentation to make sure feeds into the report. And then Steve Nixon, I believe, is joining virtually. So with that, get to lunch and then we'll get to work in those working groups. Thank you again.
Thanks.